Hi ladies, welcome to our second video pencast in section 2.7, comparing rational numbers. This time we're going to be comparing fractions because fractions are also a type of rational number. To compare fractions, the most important thing we need is the same denominator. If our denominator is not the same, then our whole is not cut into the same size pieces or slices, and it makes it very difficult to compare when the slices are not the same. After we get the same denominator and we write equivalent fractions, all we need to do is compare the numerators of our fractions. Let's look at an example. In history, you had two quizzes. On the first quiz, your score was 3 out of 4, and on the second, it was 9 out of 10. And we want to compare our quiz scores. So looking at these quiz scores, again, they're either not worth the same amount of points or didn't have the same amount of questions. So 4 and 10 are not the same denominator, so our first step here is to find the common denominator. Finding a common denominator is the same thing as finding the least common multiple. And for the sake of this pencast, we're going to use the list method of listing multiples. We can go through some other methods in class. Starting with our first denominator, 4, we're going to multiply 4 by whole numbers and create a list of multiples. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. I'm going to stop and start working on my multiples of 10 and see if I can get something that's the same. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3 is 30. And let's stop here. Looking at our lists, do they have any multiples that are the same? Yes, they do. They both have a multiple of 20, and since 20 is the smallest multiple they have in common, that is our least common multiple, and that's the value we're going to use as our common denominator. Once we determine our common denominator, we're going to write equivalent fractions. When we write equivalent fractions, we're not changing the value of the fraction itself. To do that, look at our first denominator, 4. And we want to ask ourselves, 4 times what is 20? And the answer is 4 times 5. And we talked about this in class the other day, that if we multiply the numerator and denominator by the same value, we get an equivalent fraction. So 4 times 5 is 20, 3 times 5 is 15, and 3/4 is equivalent to 15/20. 4 9/10, 10 times 2 is 20. Multiply the numerator by 2 as well. 9 times 2 is 18, and 9/10 is equivalent to 18/20. Now that we have our new fractions with the same denominator, we can compare our numerators. 15 is less than 18, which means 15/20 is less than 18/20, and also 3/4 is less than 9/10. And we've compared our quiz scores, and it turns out you did better on quiz 2. Let's look at another example very quickly that involves negatives. The process is very similar. You have to start with your common denominator. So our first fraction is -8/9. Our second fraction is -2/3. Our denominators are 9 and 3. Begin by making your multiples list. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. Oh, I can stop right here because I have a 9 in my multiples of 9 and a 9 in my multiples of 3. That's what I'm going to use for my common denominator. And the nice thing about this example is -8/9 already has a denominator of 9, so the only fraction I need to change is -2/3. Just like before, look at your denominators and ask yourself, 3 times what is 9? The answer is 3. Multiply by the same value in the numerator. -2 times 3 is -6. Remember, if your fraction is negative, that negative can be placed in the numerator, and your equivalent fraction must also then be negative. So then when we go to compare, let's look at our numerators. -6 is farther to the right, which means negative 6/9 is greater than negative 8/9, or negative 8/9 is less than negative 6/9. And we can also then say that negative 8/9 is less than negative 2/3. So there you have it, ladies. That is how you compare fractions. And I would like you to try those problems on your own, and then go ahead and go to Haiku and take the survey 2, and we will see you back here for video 3.